Well, happy Thursday. It's been a while. I'm sorry since last time we did a live, but now we're resuming our lives, and I wanted to start with a topic that has been uh, pretty present in my life lately, and that is this is something that my wife and I have been talking about a lot lately throughout the summer and stuff. And I had the opportunity to meet our special guest, David Click, in an event in Phoenix. And, we connected immediately. David has a really uh, experienced background and he understands what we're going to be talking about today. So, David, welcome.
Thank you, Tide. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about living with purpose
Mm,
as a powerful three phrase word. David,
yeah,
why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little bit of a speech on your background and talk to us about uh, your project.
sure. Well, first and foremost, thank you, Tide, for hosting this and for having me on. I'm thrilled to be here. My name is David Click, and I live in Kansas City. On the Kansas side, the question always comes up: Kansas or Missouri? And it's definitely the Kansas side for me. Born and raised here, actually, but have had the privilege of traveling the country and the world extensively for work and pleasure over my lifetime. And my background's pretty varied, actually, pretty diverse. I've dabbled in a lot of different activities, a lot of different things. I spent the last 17 years helping build 7 and 8 figure commercial companies, um, and bringing those to the market. Have a extensive background in real estate as well as the kind of the service industry. I own part of a chemical company out of Chicago, Illinois, where we sell products across the U.S., Canada, Mexico, for um, hospitals, school districts, WalMarts, Targets of the world. So um, about a year ago, I was given a really important question that was asked to me, which was, "What is your vision in life? What is your purpose, and why are you here?" And I was at an intensive kind of leadership summit with a bunch of different brothers and men, and I said, "Oh, that's easy. That's an easy one. I help build companies and we sell them or do something like that similar." And he goes, "No. That's not a purpose." He's like, "What gets you out of bed in the morning that the fire burns in your stomach?" And I went, "Oh, okay. It must be my kids, right? I got 3 daughters, and that's my purpose, is to take care of my kids, right, and be a really good father." And he looked at me, the leader of this group, and said, "David, those are secondary, tertiary type visions." He's like, "The purpose is what's deep inside of you that burns, that you get your feet out of bed at 3, 4, 5, 6 in the morning, whatever time it is, and you run, and you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that that's why you're on this earth." And I kind of realized pretty quickly, I was like, wow, I needed to step into what my true purpose was on the planet, what I was here for. And so I spent the next few weeks and months trying to identify what is my purpose. And so Tide, I went through a process that we'll talk about, which is the blueprint that was sort of given to me as I did this journey. And again, I had a pretty successful, by most standards, commercial business experience, building companies, selling, building real estate, selling, pretty successful with family, with finances, with things like that. But I realized that, man, I needed to truly step in to what I was put on earth to do. And so yeah, this is great timing for this conversation. Last year I started, and was after I was kind of went through that discovery process, the Energy Alliance Project, which was given to me, and that is helping right now. It's helping men follow the same blueprint that I followed and that my leadership team followed, to define and discover what was actually burning deep inside of them, of why they were here. So it's a very simple process that we've outlined. I'm all about systems. I'm all about processes as I build and have run and have sold companies. And so as this kind of came down to me in many forms, I went, wow, I need to scribble all these notes. I filled up a whole notepad last year, kind of trying to identify and make shape. And what came through was these 4 steps, and they are very simple, but they're so deep and so profound. And so the first step is to awaken. And so we take men through the journey of actually tapping into who they truly are, where their power comes from, and stopping the victim mentality and stepping into the divine ownership side of things, if you will. So, awaken, step 1. Step 2 is releasing, which we can talk about in detail. But that's so often we clinch and we hold on to things in our life that we believe are bringing us satisfaction, or we're scared to let go of because of whatever reason, or their pain or trauma or hurt. Um, and so by releasing and letting that go, it opens up ourself to fully receive where we need to be. Because as the old saying is, if you fill in a cup, you can't fill a full cup. And so if you're holding on to something so tightly in life, we often can't, and we can't truly step into what our true purpose is. So we awaken. We teach men how to awaken. We teach men how to release. We teach men how to transform. So once we have done some of that inner work and realized where we're at and what we have been holding on to that maybe doesn't truly fit in our lives, we can then step into true power and transform our lives with divine intention. So we have a whole process on setting that intention with purpose and helping the brothers walk into where they're supposed to be. But a part of what I've learned through the commercial world extensively, you would go to a sales seminar, you spend 3, 4, 5 days, you get all riled up, you get on fire, you get on the plane, you fly home. And science showed that within 2 weeks, if you didn't repeat and reintegrate what you learned from those sessions, and that could be from a sales session, that could be from reading a book, that could be from a workout program, that could be from all kinds of different things in life. But if you didn't repeat them within 2 weeks, the body forgets 96% of what was learned. So as this vision was coming to me to help men step into where we're supposed to be, it made no sense to go through all of the awakening, releasing, and transforming if 2 weeks later they have only improved 4%. So the integration step, which is our fourth and final area, is taking all 3 of those areas and wrapping them up together and helping create habits, helping create routines, helping create essentially an ability for the body to truly resonate with what we've learned. And so, again, pretty simple blueprint. As with most really impactful things, it's not necessarily the how complex it is, but it's how much we can get it into our body and make it work. And so that's those are the 4 steps that we have started to implement and started to train and teach others. All of my leadership team has gone through these blueprints, and the men that go through, often the first question is, why are we having a conversation, Taide, about work inside of ourselves when we're here to build 7, 8, 9, 10-figure companies, right? And I kind of smirk and kind of laugh about that, because it all starts right here. And we can build or try to build whatever it is, but unless we are truly in alignment and truly in step with what our intention and our purpose is, it's not going to truly be effective. So, yeah, long-winded. Sorry, I'm talking a lot there, but that's kind of for what the kind of the basics are of the program.
No, that is perfect, and I think that helps people to understand what the Energy Alliance project is.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a few questions, David, that I want to ask you. These are some questions that I have heard in the past, from people who are trying to discover themselves, like what their priorities in life is, etc. But what can you do to discover your calling in life? Because oftentimes that question can be so loaded. But what advice could you give to those people that feel like right now they are not doing what they're supposed to be doing with their life?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's what brings most of the men that we deal with to us, right? Because we feel, man, we're 95% there, we're 90% there, and there's this gap, this little bit of a missing piece. And so the question is, how do I find that? How do I step onto the destination, to the prize? And absolutely. So, to the shortest, most articulated answer, if I can, is it all starts inside. Um, and those four steps that we talked about, the first one is actually what you're doing right now, which is raising the awareness, which is understanding that, wow, maybe I'm not right where I need to be or where I want to be, or I see that there's something inside of me that I'm not ecstatic with or content with, and I want to make those changes, but I don't know how. Um, Obviously, the awareness is absolutely the critical step, because we can't make a change unless we're aware of what it is. What we find, and I think it's just the way our society has developed over the last couple hundred years. But what we find with men specifically is that we're very, very stuck up in our head. We have a lot of knowledge. We're taught in school and university. We're taught in um, therapy. We're taught in all kinds of different places from our work up here, and we understand. We're smart. We can process a lot. But what happens is that we forget that the head is on our shoulders, which is the rest of our body, and we have grown dull, and we've desensitized the ability to feel ourselves from the inside out. And so part of the process of stepping into that vision is teaching us how to reprogram from the mind down. And so we have to have the knowledge, but we also need to trust our gut. We also need to trust our heart. We also need to speak the truth. And so there's all these different practices that as men in our power driven society, we've sort of forgotten, or we've overcompensated on certain aspects of it. So there's not a truly short answer to that, but how do we step into our purpose? We wake up, we realize that we need to, and then we need to identify through a series of some deep work, where am I restricting myself? And we have built the project to help identify those areas. And everybody's different, right? There's not a one size fits all to where those hurdles we've created ourselves, where those obstacles, where those problems are that we've even been holding on to something so tightly that we can't breathe and relax and truly see. But by doing that deep work, and we have some tools and tricks and some tips to help with that on the initial side, which is big, because sometimes there's some big rocks that we just need to get out, get those put to the side. And then there's a daily routines and schedules and maintenance is what we like to call it with the integration. So those are the two biggest aspects right there.
Hey, David. So if I get this intuition and I start feeling like, oh, I'm trusting myself about what I'm feeling right now, but you are surrounded by the folks that are not in the same frequency as you are, or the frequency that you are trying to go. How can you deal with the comments and the probably the negative vibe that can be around the path that you want to go to?
Sure. That's so there's been some really good science that's actually been discovered on frequencies, which you brought up, which some people are like, oh, what does that mean? Well, every emotion has a frequency. And so fear and anxiety is a very low vibrating frequency. And a lot of the people that we've surrounded ourselves with at the beginning have been vibrating in that. And so when we start to elevate our frequencies into a higher level, the very first thing you're going to get is pushback from your circle that says, wait a minute, you're doing something different. You're changing. That's a different frequency. And so they're going to say, hey, come back down here, because we want company, right? We need exactly. You to stay on our low vibrating fear level frequency. And you're going, okay. So, fortunately and unfortunately, when we step into what we're supposed to be doing in this life, a lot of times those circles will change. And sometimes that can
be open, right? We have to be open for those changes.
Well, that's right, because when we elevate who we are on an internal level out, everything changes. And sometimes that can be very painful from families that we have to, again, I'm never in favor of just cutting people off. But sometimes that's just pulling our energy back. There's an old proverb that says, don't cast your pearls before swine. And sometimes the things that are rich and beautiful inside of us, we just have to be cautious who we give it to. And not calling family or friends swine, but I think that's the analogy, is that when we change and when we elevate, it's going to shake some stuff up.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned fear, and I know that fear can stop us from doing a lot of things in life. So when you're starting to go in that pursuit of your purpose in life, you know, the unknown can be very scary, right?
Yes.
So how can we get out of that safe and comfortable zone that we are in to try to pursue our meaning in life? Because we already got the intuition and we're trusting ourselves that what we're doing right now is not exactly what we feel like we're supposed to be doing. But there is that fear in between. How can we pass that fear and start pursuing our ultimate goal in life?
That's a really, I love that question, because it goes deep on a lot of levels that we probably can't fully get into in our short time today. But the best way to think about fear or anxiety or worry or anger or any of these feelings that may come up, we teach men how to identify those and where they're at in their body, which is kind of a little weird. And people are like, well, what are you doing? Well, we're actually showing you where they come from, because a fear will come up in certain parts of your body. And what we have been trained is that we think, oh, if I feel that, then I must be that, right? If I feel fear, then that must be the emotion that I need to let control me. Where if we just do a real simple exercise, if we close our eyes for just a minute and we think about our brain, which is where fear comes from, where the thought comes from, and we step back and stand behind us and look at us sitting in this chair, and we can see our brain, well, then we know very, very empirically that we are not our brain. I can feel my lung, I can feel my heart. The brain is an organ, and the brain, through whatever belief system that you have, was given to us to keep us alive. And oftentimes those emotions that will come up originate from an organ right here in our head. And we have to be able to tell ourselves that, hey, I see that fear. I feel that fear. I appreciate that fear. And I know where it's sitting. Oh, that fear is in my heart. Oh, I'm so afraid of being hurt. And then we realize that it's not us. And so the emotion we allow to sit with us, if this makes sense, we realize that we are not the emotion, because we can, for the mere fact that we can observe it, tells us that we are not that emotion. So when we get to a point within our bodies, being able to identify that fear, oh, I want to start this new business venture, but it's going to take a big capital expenditure, and I'm not sure how I'm going to fund it. And man, I've only got 6 months of capital to put this on the page and get it through, and blah, 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 blah. That's all fear, right? Now, assuming our plan's solid and we've done our market research and we have a good dream that we know that we're stepping into what we're supposed to, we can look at that fear and say, hey, I feel you. I see you. That's coming from my stomach. And I acknowledge that it's there. And then it helps us process it out. Because oftentimes we hide and we settle into it and we just get locked up and we're like, oh my gosh, it's so scary. I don't know how to handle it. But when we actually let the emotion happen, emotions are neither right nor wrong, right? It's our brain sending a signal to our body to say, this seems like it could be dangerous, right? There may be a tiger in those woods, as we were in a much more primitive state. And so our brain has developed from that period where it's like, whoa, watch out for that tall grass. There may be a tiger in there. And so it's a survival mechanism. So when we step back, and I'm putting it in very simple terms, there's all kinds of science to back this up and to prove all this through scans and everything of what goes on in the body. But when we back up, the simplest way is just even close your eyes and look and say, oh, that's my brain. Those are my feelings that are just trying to share themselves. Okay, but I know that I've got a good solid plan, and I know that this is where I want to be, and it helps us process those emotions that come up. I don't know if that answers in a it's kind of hard to break it into a really really small example, but that's the best way that we teach, which is you don't run from it, you sit with it, you figure out where it's at in your body. Like I said before, a lot of guys are up here and they don't know how to tap into the rest of this amazing vessel that have been given to us on this earth, right? But we tap into it and we say, that's where it's feeling that, because the last two times I did that, I got swindled, or I invested that money in that marketing company, and then they ran away and they took my money, or they didn't deliver the receivables like we expected. And then, okay, but I've improved and I know, or man, this is a vision that's been given to me, and it doesn't really matter that I'm afraid of it. This is what I'm here to do. And so we can analyze it that way.
It's beautiful. Earlier this year, David, one of my mentors asked me to write my obituary, and and when you put your life into perspective like that, like assuming that I'm gonna live X amount of years, and then you outline what your priorities are for the next 3 years, the next 5 years, maybe the next 10 years, the concept of time started to get even a higher value, at least for me. It made me realize that, I always talk about health being like one of the most valuable assets that I have in my life. But then after doing this exercise, I realized that time and health are equally important.
Sure.
So when you are pursuing your purpose in life, we know time is precious and we have to invest it wisely. But we're gonna get to that point also where we're talking about fear, like, oh, that project's gonna take too long, like I don't want to do it. So how can you like prioritize things in your life, so time, one of your most valuable assets, play in your favor and not against you in your pursuit
Yeah.
of happiness and well-being and stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Pursuit of love, joy, and happiness, right? The American dream, the dream of having peace, essentially, is what it is. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, I I think this is going to go back to the original thought. Since we all have 24 hours, we all have the same amount of time each day. How much time do we spend worrying? How much time do we spend focusing on things that we can't control?
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, we can control one thing in this world. I can't control you, Tide. I can't control the guys in the office. I can't control anybody. I can control one thing, and that's myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we have spent that time to make sure that we're on track, make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, what we want to do, that time question, I think, becomes a secondary issue, because if we're spending our time in a 9 to 5 that we hate, and we get up early, we go to work out, and we dread going into the office for 8-10 hours a day, of course time is against us, because it's actually us that we're not in alignment with what we're supposed to be doing. And there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with 9 to 5s, and people love them, and that is what they're doing. But if you're fighting what your purpose is, and
Mm-hmm.
what God gave you talents and gifts to do, of course you're always going to be watching the clock. And so, yeah, I would say the best. Well, I would say one of the most important things with that time question is making sure that you have spent the time to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. And if you have, then you may know, hey, for the next 3 years, I've got to do this, because I have to build this nest egg to start this business, which is what I want to do. And I know it's where my passion is. And so those next 3 years, we don't have to sit there and fight the clock, right? We
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be like, man, I hate getting up. Why do I have to do this? Because we know, because we've written it down, we have the plan to step into what our purpose is. So there's probably a lot of answers to that, but that would
Yeah,
be the way that I would address it initially.
I like it. I know that for some people, finding the answers by themselves is easy, but for some others, they need that coaching. They need that guidance. I know that as part of the Energy Alliance project, you guys have different programs, and one of them is the retreats that you
Sure.
guys host. Can you tell us a little bit about it? And for that, we have a few slides that David wants to share with you. So I'm gonna put it on the screen.
Sure.
I'm gonna go back to one. So if you can talk to us a little bit about the
Sure.
retreats,
Yeah.
David, please.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that as well. So one of when we were developing the Energy Alliance project and figuring out how do we take this vision of helping men step into, and if you go to the next slide here, step into our true purpose and bridge that gap. It was very, very clear that having an intensive mountaintop high experience through a retreat, you spend a little bit of money, you spend a little bit of time, you block it off, and what we've seen is that when you dedicate that time and money to an actual specific goal, which is awakening, releasing, and figuring out what we're supposed to be doing, it's very, very, very powerful. And so we did. We developed these retreats as a leadership summits, leadership intensives is what we call them, and they're usually West Coast, East Coast based, and we rotate once a month right now between the East and the West. And we bring in between 16 and 24 men, entrepreneurial minded men. So that doesn't mean guys that only have, successful 8-9 figure businesses, but guys that are possibly in that couple year period of building before they launch it. But we bring them in because and we saturate them with a white glove service, which is essentially airport to airport. Everything's covered. We have a chef. We have the whole experience, so that when they're part of that leadership summit, all they have to think about is going inside and doing the work that we have developed and built for these guys. So if you jump to the next slide, that's just a quick some of the leadership team here. But there's different aspects of this to get us to drop from our head into our bodies, which we talked about, because that really is a really critical part. And so we have different modalities that have been built. You can click through this. If you want to go to the next slide, Taide. Yeah. And again, going into those 4 steps, each one of them is focused on to help us truly step into understanding what this package, whatever the package looks like, that's been given to us for our 60, 80, 100 years on Earth, is supposed to do. So the intensives are a very good opportunity to spend a dedicated amount of time, not only figure out what's going on in here, but also to connect with like-minded brothers. Right now, it is just focused on the masculine energy and helping the male entrepreneurs and the male entrepreneur-minded men sort out what's going on, because we do believe that is what ultimately is controllable, and that's ourself. So if you go to the next slide here, again, I mentioned these, but we go through those steps. Each day is dedicated to awakening the first day, releasing the second day, and transforming with vision the third day. And as I mentioned, the integration aspect is incorporated as we go forward back into our life. So you can click through that one. Great. We've got multitude guys that have come through. We're still continuing to find the best way to get those messages out. We're going to be doing some video testimonials going forward, but you can see here a lot of guys come in with anxiety, a little bit of, oh man, I gotta be vulnerable and step into an intensive leadership summit with other men that are also trying to improve their life. And so the feeling of anxiety comes up an awful lot as they get there. But the way the program's structured, very, very quickly, we realize that we're all, whether we're building, super 9-figure companies or 10-figure companies, or we're raising a family as our ultimate goal, and money's not on the driving agenda list. We realize that we're all by trying to improve ourselves, we're all on the same page. So great. Actually, we have our next one is September 14th, and not too far from you, Ty Day, but up outside Los Angeles, and it's going to be just a super time for again some brothers to come in. We got guys flying in from all over the country. We did have a guy from Africa that was supposed to be coming in, and he wasn't able to get the visa in time. But we will be worldwide within a couple of years. The goal is definitely to continue to branch out and provide an incubator. I call it a fast track. I call it a like part of the toolkit where they can come in, they can get charged up, they can experience it. But we're also very realistic, and we realize that 3, 4, 5 days with people is not going to change everything long term. But what we have done is we can crack open the door, we can set the releasing stage, we can set the intention stage, and then with the full integration going forward, obviously with anything in life, it's going to depend on how well do you want to follow the program, and do you want to integrate so that what you learned can become a daily habit and a daily practice that you reside in. So you can click through that one. Yeah. So that is that's just a couple quick slides on the September 14th retreat. If it is of interest to somebody that's watching or somebody that knows Ty Day or myself, we do have a couple seats that are still available. We get a pretty high end kind of mansion. We bring everybody in. Everything's taken care of, but it's a really nice environment to not have to worry about camping in the woods or doing something, but truly all you have to do is show up, put the work in, and set your intention, and the results come.
David, quick question. Someone
Yes,
asked
sir.
if you guys are planning to host retreats for women or mixed retreats.
Sure. So we are, yes. The goal is by the end of 2023 to have fully, I don't want to say perfected, but make sure that the team is in place as we scale to hold multiple, the masculine side. But absolutely, the goal is to eventually have the female side, which we are already in discussions with those women that would be leading that, so that it all lines up, and then put it all under the same umbrella. The females do their work, the males do their work, and then they can come together and share in evenings and things like that. So yeah, that is on the agenda for the end of 2023, starting 2024. But for the next about 16 months, it will be centered strictly on the masculine side.
So guys, I hope that you learned something from this conversation, because life is too short to not living it without a purpose. David, is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, this has been beautiful. I really appreciate the time and the hospitality to invite me in and share this. But you're absolutely right, is that we owe it to ourselves to step into what we're supposed to be doing. And some people know, some people already have, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and they just haven't done it. And we can help with that. And then some people are like, man, that sounds cool, but I'm a younger guy, or I don't have a clue what I'm supposed to be doing, but I know it's not this. So we can help with that as well. But it always sits with, I always would suggest someone watches this and maybe it resonates for a little bit. Like, oh man, maybe I should attend one of those. So I always give the same suggestion, which is at the end of your day, before you crash for the night, go into a dark room, turn the lights off, don't take your phone, don't take your computer, no TV, and just sit for 10, 15, 20 minutes and just feel how your body is responding to, should I step into something like this and go through that experience? Does that feel like, maybe scary, yes, maybe anxious, yes, but does it feel like that would help me where I want to go? Or like, no, I think I've got the resources, I think I've got the tools, and that's really cool, but that may not resonate. So we're here to help magnify and amplify those types of situations where the guys are doing the work themselves. But yeah, this is super awesome. So thank you so much for the time.
It's so funny that you just mentioned that about disconnecting yourself, because earlier today I was reading this article that was suggesting that when you have very important decisions to take,
Mhm.
that we have to isolate ourselves, take some time to disconnect our head, from issues and deadlines and all that, analyze what, the implications of your decisions on this
Mhm.
long-term project might be, actually like writing them down, because you
Yeah.
will find the answer as you start writing down the possible options or solutions for what you are trying to decide. So it's pretty powerful what you just said. Like we need to have that me time, and especially when it comes about like figuring out the rest of our life or what is important for us in our life. Because if one thing we learned from this pandemic is that life's too short, and it doesn't matter like how old you are or where you live or how much money you have. If you lose your health, you're done.
Yeah. Well, and it can change. But I wanted to highlight real briefly that comment which you just talked about, which was spending a little time to figure out where we're going with life. I mean, how much time do we spend analyzing which car we're going to buy,
Yeah.
or what clothes we're going to go buy, or what Netflix show they want to watch next? I mean, they'll surf for 30, 40 minutes to figure out what am I going to do for the next hour, right? And you've already burned an hour looking at all the previews.
Yeah.
How often do we go into a room with a notepad and a pencil and no electronics and no people, and
Hmm.
we put the sign on the door that says, "Guys, kids, I'm busy. Don't knock on this door for the next hour," and give ourselves that time?
Hmm.
Most of us, I know, 2 years ago, I never did that. But think about that. Why? Why? When our future and our vision is ultimately the only thing we can control,
Yeah.
why are we spending that energy on ourselves to do that? So that's a great point, and thank you for bringing that up.
No, thank you, David. I'm pretty sure that this won't be the last time that we have you on the show or and our different platforms. And I want to thank everyone who watched this Q&A with David live. And I know that a lot of you will watch this recording later. So feel free to reach out to David if you guys have any questions about the Energy Alliance project, their programs, if they want to participate in any of their retreats. And make sure that you follow David throughout his different social media profiles, Facebook group, etc., because he's always putting like really good stuff out there. And maybe one of these pieces of information can help you decide something important in your life. So, David, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tide. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day and happy Labor Day weekend, party weekend. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye, David.
All right. Bye bye.